Now we have reached about the end of our short conference today. Of course, throughout the day asking this important question about Estonia and been examining a little bit the nature of civil society, the goals of civil society. And the next lecture will be on the importance of education, the importance of education for civil society. And the next speaker, Reverend Father Karl Stehlin, is a traditional Catholic priest of the Society of St. Pius X, and he was born in South Germany. He was ordained a priest in 1988, and from 1986 to 1994, he was a missionary in Gabon, Africa. And in 1994, he was chosen to be the superior and one of the founders of the Society's missions in Eastern Europe. And he has been the superior of the Society of St. Pius X apostolate in Eastern Europe for 18 years. And as I said, Father Stehlin will speak to us about education and the importance of education for civil society and why education is about forming a human personality. Father?
Thank you very much for this invitation. I would like to divide my short speech into 4 small parts. I'd like to present the essence, the essential points. What is education? If we wanted to deal about important issues, we have in our time always a big problem. We use the same words, but we have completely different meanings about this. So before starting to deal about an important topic, it is important to explain its essence. The second point is using this word education. We will see that this is certainly and before all an education of intelligence. The following point, intelligence of will, and finally intelligence of heart and soul. Everybody knows that the word education in Old Greek language, pedagogics, comes from pipe again, which means lead the child, take care of the child, bring him from less to more, to the heights, to light, to truth. The same meaning you find in the word, this time Latin, education, educatio. Education comes from educere. Ducere is lead, educere is lead from to. Take out of a state of nothing, of emptiness, and lead him to values, to being. Of course, somebody must lead the child, the person who is to be educated. And because nobody can give what he has not himself, the child needs a master, a leader who knows himself, who is able to guide himself, who knows the way. Now education is based on 2, let me say, principles, on two foundations. The first is put in the very essence of mankind. Human being is in the beginning, as says Aristotle, a tabula rasa. Its intelligence is not waken up, it's passive reception, starts to receive and then to assimilate what comes into himself from outside. From in himself, he is only, as the same philosopher says, esse in potentia. It's being, it is intelligence, but just open to receive, reception. So the educator, parents, teacher, priest, must take him out of this state of nothing, of poor reception, and give him food. Fill him with real beings, with knowledge about all what exists, what is. So the child opens its eyes, and I think each mother and each parent of you is quite aware of this, how children can open their eyes and fix reality. They are so much concentrated in reality, they are in some ecstasis, we say. They cannot think about themselves because they are absorbed from this reality. The child opens its eyes, and then when the child grows, he asks. He asks his parents. The first question is, Father, Mother, Emma, what's this? Mission. What's this? After some months or years, he will ask why it's so. And then after some months and years, he will ask for what it is. And the parents, and afterwards the teachers, give the answer to these questions. And these answers the child receives before with absolute confidence, trust. Now, of course, the parents will not only give him just an explanation about the many phenomena, about the situations and different beings, but of all about this, what they have to say, they explain to the child, what is yourself? Not only the things around you, who are you? And this comes in the life of a child more and more. He asks, what is this me? Who am I? Who am I? In the beginning it's not so, but already when the child starts to think, this question comes more and more. Who am I? And then, why am I? For what am I? This is the deepest word of the education, to explain to a human being who he is himself. What is the sense of his life? And if the child will not receive the sense of his life and a true and adequate answer, then you will see the child try to find the solution in what is given to him by any manipulator who wants to destroy him. That is the reason why children are despaired already, why there is so much suicide because of nothings, because of a result which was bad, or because of the sacrifice or the suffering. So, the first essence of education is to give to the child the full reality, to fill his intelligence with being, with truth, with true reality. The second point, education is based on the concrete situation of man, not only on his very essence, metaphysical essence, as we say, but on his concrete situation. What is the concrete situation of man? Everybody observes that man's life is very complicated. Many sufferings, many trials, disorder, death. Very quickly the child states these things which are not in order. The very small child, when he is not fulfilled what he needs, he cries, he shouts, he weeps. But more, these facts we know very well, and these facts are directly against the deepest wishes and desires of men. This already the child instinctively understands. We understand it with reflection. So you see, our desires, I want to be happy, I want to be healthy, I want to live in peace, joy, satisfaction. And I want that this happiness will not stop. Now, contradiction. I want to have happiness, I want to be in joy, and joy will stop. And stop so often. I remember when I was an 8-year-old boy, it was the day of a great religious day of the first communion in Armulaut. And then in Germany, the children are clothed in the best clothes, and then they receive many, many gifts, small presents. And I remember so much that I unfortunately was not so much religious and pious. I was just waiting for the presents and the gifts I received. And there was a big table of presents. And in the afternoon I played with the gifts I have received with my comrades. And the evening came. It was such a happy day. And then Mother came, said, Karl, it's time to go to bed. I said, Mother, let a little bit more, just some moments, such a beautiful day. Okay, half an hour, and then I come back and then go to bed. Yes, Mother. I played 1 hour. Mother came, Karl, it's time to go to bed. I didn't react. She went out after some minutes. She came in already with such a, if you don't stop now, I will bring you to bed. And then I remember, when I ignored even that, she took me into my room to bed. And I remember the day of my first communion when I was before my bed, I was shouting with my hands, I don't want to finish this day. I don't want to finish this day. I didn't understand in those times. I just remember this awful end of such a beautiful day, which made me afterwards very often reflect what I saw amongst many, many children and people. Yes, we don't want to stop our happiness. We want that it lasts forever. And so, no explanation to this contradiction. Desires, immense desires and such a reality. Happiness and such a mess. Great, great, great order, harmony in such a dirt. And this is our life. Many philosophers try to explain. And they will say, nihilists, as you say, as you know, with Schopenhauer if you want, and others, all is nonsense. Forget about that. Epicureans say, just look to fill you with as much as pleasures as you can, and then finish. Stoics say, just calm down all emotions. Hinduists see as a goal the going back to the nothing, to the nirvana, so we will at least not suffer. The answer is, as you know, as nobody created himself, but all are created from God. The answer to these problems can only come from Him. He is the master. If you build a house, a palace, and you bring a visitor who sees the construction of the palace, he will ask the architect, the builder, about the sense of this construction. This construction of man is the same thing. Let's ask to God. As God revealed Himself in the world, in His Son Jesus Christ, we receive from Him exactly this explanation. This is what several times today has been called or remembered as an original sin. This is because men, in the beginning of human mankind, refused to fulfill the will of God. He turned away from God. And the consequences of this turning away are blindness of reason, weakness of will, anarchy in the heart of man and in the world. Anarchy in the world which brings to cosmic catastrophes, but also human catastrophes, up to misunderstandings, troubles, wars, revolutions, anarchy, corruption, inclination to any pleasure and self-satisfaction, that means egoism, on the cost of the other who has to suffer for that. So, the stronger will survive. Education is to make free man from these consequences, to heal these wounds. So, you see, the educator has a big work. Education is not only fill men with reality, but to heal wounds. Here, it is the word educere, to take out from a hole, to take out from a miserable state. And this miserable state also the parents see everywhere at any moment. When the consequences of original sin brings the small child already to acts of egoism, of self-satisfaction, which is, if you do not give him what he wants, he cries, he shouts, and you must accustom him to the good, to free him in order and to exercise him in growing, to do the good and to avoid the evil, which is a very hard work. And now, after these principles of education, let's apply this. What is education of intelligence? You know, the education of youth concerns, of course, the whole human being. Education is not the education of the left hand or the right hand or a part of your intelligence. That is not education. It takes the whole human being. As the most noble faculty of human being is his intelligence, education first of all applies to activate the intelligence of the youth, of the child, of the young man, of the student. And this is important to understand. What does that mean? You must, the education, so the parents, the teachers, they must present reality, real beings, phenomena of all things, according to the capacity of the child. And when the child grows, you give him more, you explain him better, you explain him all things, the plants, the animals, biology, chemistry, geography, physics, life, culture of mankind, history of mankind, the genius of mankind, which means literature, music, art, architecture, but also all the different possibilities to govern the world, all kind of ability and skill, so that he can bake, and he can cook, and he can drive, and become a businessman, he can act and transform the world. So all these now mentioned sciences, you know very well from each school program, are based on the same very principles of thinking. So you see, the child must learn not only to observe the surroundings, to become like a human machine, to handle with things, but the goal of intelligence is to know the truth. What things are in their inner being, what they are, why they are, from what they come, and for what they are, what is their goal. This is intelligent work. This is a work of intelligence. And you see, this is a very big problem in our days. You know, these phenomena and concrete things and events to come into our poor heads are too much, absolutely too much. We are not in a society where the people stood up with the sound of the cock and then started to admire beautiful nature, maybe fight with the nature, and then they go to bed. Quiet life. Life in the countryside, finished all that. We are now living in a life of mass media, which give to our intelligence not only, let me say, some, but oceans of concrete details. One film after the other is running on. News from everywhere in the world and even outside the world. Computer games, gossips, discussion groups, discussion about everything you can imagine and even not imagine. So what happens with us all, but especially with the child, the young man? We cannot anymore think, because our poor mind is fully absorbed by apprehending, by getting a news, a signal from outside, this event. You want to think about what has he said? You forget it because you get the next event and the next event. Another thing comes. So, what is our life of today? Now, so quickly these events and these, let me say, phenomena are coming to my mind, and so quickly they are replaced by others, thousands a day, that we start or finish to live only under so-called impressions. And we do not anymore think about them because there's just no time. Because in order to think, we need some time. We have to reflect. Stop, what's that? What's about this? Why? For what? It needs almost at least 1 minute. It's no minute for that. Look, a film. There are so many actions. You cannot think about this. And these signals from outside impress our feelings. Yes, they wake our emotions and provoke emotional reactions. You know these reactions. Fine, I love it. Bad, I don't love it. That is horrible. This I like, so I want. I desire. This I don't like, I reject. But this, you see, is done by these impressions. You don't reflect it as emotions. It is emotions that you just put the button and you can provoke emotion. Each psychologist, each man who has to do with public relations knows very well that mankind is now running like this. Therefore, the great importance of publicity. Publicity is to run emotions on man. Just fill him with his emotions, he will not think. He will just feel well or bad, and according to what he is feeling, he will judge and will decide. And this is absolutely dangerous, because we have no more time to think about these impressions. We just let us guide according to the emotions they provoke. And this is the very essence of manipulation. Manipulation is defined by this. Example, just one. Everybody knows yet from the famous swine flu. Swine flu. During 3 weeks, all mass media all over the world speak about swine flu all the time. Exactly explaining thousands of people, 100,000 of people, half of the continent is dying in the next months, years. Nobody knows what exactly it is, this swine flu. Maybe some professors. Just terrible results. Half of a country would die. Everybody is afraid. Everybody goes to vaccination. Everybody puts a mask on his hand, on his face. After 3 weeks, the horrible swine flu is over. You forget about this. Nobody speaks anymore about that. After 3 weeks, the thing was more or less forgotten. And all things like that, let me say. This is just an example, and this fact should convince us in what education of intelligence should consist. Not only realize the phenomena, the news, but teach the child to think about them yourself. Think about it. Look through that. Intelligence comes from the Latin intus legere. Read within. Understand within. Go into. you must know the whole reality. You must know the exact value of that reality. So you must know the objective truth, what so beautifully Varro has applied to the essence of family and marriage. This is the goal of human reason and the goal of educational intelligence. Know the objective truth, but what that means exactly, concretely. 4 small explanations. First is that objective truth is logic. And this is important for our days. We are getting accustomed to a thinking according to emotions. But emotions are now this and afterwards that. There is no logic in them. We must go back to this good logical thinking. Reason and intelligence according to the basic and evident principles of thinking. What are these principles? They are not much, but they are so important, and we use them all the time. But if we start to think, we don't use them again, and this is horrible. It's destroying human intelligence. What is the first? The principle of non-contradiction. It is not possible that one thing can be and not be at the same time. Black cannot be white, salt cannot be sugar. Each lady going into the kitchen will certainly not forget about this principle. If not, I wouldn't like to eat her cake. Man cannot be a woman, and here you have already the genderism. Either God exists or not, but God cannot exist and not exist at the same time. These principles you realize in the concrete daily life, for your small everyday needs, but you don't realize it anymore in judging and considering the reality. Then you will immediately see that publicity explains you one thing can be and not to be in the same time. Take this cigarette and you will live forever. The cigarette, live forever, what a contradiction. And the people start to believe it. I will be always young with this. This is this second principle. Each result has a reason. Each work has an author. This is the next thing. And the first principle of moral life, good is to be accomplished, evil has to be avoided. Of course, if that concerns you, you will apply this. If some evil will happen to you, you will shout and cry, that's not good. I will not accept this. But if it is the universal good of the world, of the state, of a country, of Estonia, suddenly this principle is forgotten. So these principles have to be put back into the education, which brings the child very clearly to that what instinctively he starts to see. The child lives in the truth. It's only deprivated, taken out from the truth through experience, when nobody tries to explain him these logical principles and applies in each reality. See, my dearest child, you can say to you see, it's not normal that you say today yes to one thing and after you say no to this same thing. Because if the thing is yes, to say it no, it's not good. You must avoid this. This is what we apply. So the second point, education must select the phenomena to present. Here is the great task of the educator, complete forgotten in modern education today. What does that mean? That there is so many trash, so many dirt, so many completely nonsense in the world. You have now so many films, so many literature, so many computer games, so many these gadgets with which children play, which is absolutely a poison, which is itself manipulation, exaltation of evil, exaltation of lie, of corruption. When you present to the children such figures who are horrible, the child who is made for beauty, you will harm the soul of the child. So these things have not to be presented to the child. And if the child goes through the Kauplus, then you will just say, look, this is not good. And you will try to bring him valuable toys, valuable things which let him live according to harmony, according to truth, and according to value. So there is a negation of truth. Look, would you give poisoned food to your child, that your child will get sick with this? No. You will take care that the food you give to your child is not poisoned. And there is the same thing in giving the child intelligent, the good things to eat spiritually. Value, truth, beauty. Against to that, you have bad music, stupid art. And who can select all that? The educator, the parents, the teacher. The child takes everything. Whatever you give him, he will take. Like if the mother gives him a poisoned food, he will eat it, of course. And afterwards, maybe he die. If you give him corrupt things, the youth will be corrupt. And therefore it is a great task of the educator, especially of a school, a running of a school, to select in the school program valuable literature, beautiful music, great uplifting examples of art and whatever you want. Beautiful examples of greatness, of truth. The third point for intelligence, the whole world of intelligence is not an assembly of many stones in a magazine. The world of intelligence is a harmony, a symphony. The world is an image, is a path, is a beautiful creation, a symphony. Our knowledge is not a computer with many files which have nothing to do one with another. There is a relationship between beings, especially amongst men. Therefore, education has not only to provide mathematics, sports, foreign language, and all these different things, but also show their relations, coordinate them together. This is only possible if the educator looks from above. If you are in a valley and work in your garden, you will not see what grows and happens in the garden of your neighbor. But if you stand on the top of a mountain, you can look everywhere, judge which garden is more beautiful, which place is better than the other. And similarly with education. You teach the child all the matters, but also you give him the apprehension of the whole world, of the beauty, of the correlationship. And finally, the intelligence is not only the matters of the world. The intelligence needs more than only food for 70, 80 years. You know very well that our intelligence is a part of our soul, and our soul is immortal, is eternal. And therefore, logically, intelligence needs information of what is above time and eternity. Without notion of everlasting values and true knowledge about eternal life, the human reason will never be satisfied. Therefore, everyone has a religion. According to the principles, I explained you these first principles of thinking, mankind and the youth has to be led to the tops. And the tops of the hills, of the mountains of his intelligence is to have a sight and a look to everlasting values of things which will not pass. These values anyway are in the mouth of everybody. Will, liberty, the great values of human dignity, and especially the world of all worlds, the mystery of all mysteries, love. But these things have to be explained, what they are, what they mean. If not, you will just have a caricature of that. And that's what I understand to read when these words are so much used, almost nobody knows what they mean. I must continue in order to not to pass my time with the education of will. But very often, because very often today, we meet a great error, a big error in school education. And this error consists in that the teacher thinks that it is sufficient to fill up the youth with knowledge, and that's all. If he's competent in this matter, he will be a good mathematic, a good biologist, and will give his young people really a beautiful knowledge of biology, and will be happy if his students will have marvelous exams and his job is finished. That's an error. Knowledge itself is not sufficient to build a man. The will is necessary also to put the knowledge into real existence. The theory must be put into practice. The will, you know, is so important because we cannot only think in our life, we have to live. But to live, that is to bring our intelligence into action. Potentia goes into actus. Therefore, education is a school of life. The youth must learn to act. St. Paul says, aletoiein en agape. This means to do the truth in love. To do the truth, not only to see and understand, but to realize it, to do it. To do what is according to reality. This education of the will, my friends, is much more difficult than that of the reason. So also 4 small points concerning the education of will for parents and teachers, for those who want to answer positively quo vadis Estonia. To acquire practice. Everybody knows it's not sufficient to do it once, twice, to repeat it often. Therefore, the first point of the education of will is exercise. Exercise. But exercise needs effort. And not only just sometimes, but constant effort. The youth of today is a life without efforts. You know, it's exactly the contradiction of this easy life of our young people, of our society. Our society is a society of laughter and pleasures and games. And all that does not need any big effort. Just to take the plane somewhere from a country to Estonia and then have your pleasures from Friday to Sunday and go back. The only thing what you have to bring with you is money. And then this is your life. And therefore, if the young people see such a world and such a society, it's of course absolutely difficult to speak of values. Because according to the above mentioned original sin with the weakness of will, everybody is inclined to do what is easy, what is immediately pleasure. It's much more easy to play a game than to learn a language. It's much more easy to amuse oneself than to sit down for hours and hours and to realize and to make these exercises. So the educator, the parents and the teachers must motivate the youth. And this motivation is one of the most important things in today's education. If we want to save a country, if we want to save our families, we must give to our young people a strong motivation, stronger than that what they see in the news, what they read in and look around themselves. Showing these young people the beautiful goal to achieve, encourage them to make efforts. And therefore the educator must assist the youth in the efforts, guide him, wake him up, make him concentrated. And this assistance takes a lot of time, a lot of nerves, and needs many patience. We do not have generally. But you see, that's the art of the art, education of youth. Second thing concerning the education of will, The will does always in order to achieve a concrete result. In Latin we say to get the bonum. It was said by Mr. Oaksman about the justice, what is this bonum commune. And this is, or at last seems to be good for him. This is made our will. I see something which is good for me. For instance, I'm thirsty or even not. I see here a beautiful glass filled with a beautiful thing. So I see this thing as a good. I desire it and my will turns to it and that's it. If this he doesn't appreciate as a good, well, it's empty. So there is no good inside, so forget it. There's no desire. He doesn't realize this. Now, there are real goods and apparent goods, bonum apparens, which is the very definition of evil. Evil is not the devil is like this, no. Evil is an apparent good, it's a smiling thing, it's something which seems apparently to be very, very appreciable. Apparent good is to exercise the will for false goals, which in reality do not make him happy, but unhappy, which destroy him finally. Therefore, the educator has to take care that the youth exercises the will to realize the true good and to distance themselves from false goods, from apparent goods, from evil. That means education of will is a constant fight. This is what we have forgot all the time. We must make fighters. And these fighters, of course, will last the whole life and will have the following principle. In the measure in which you turn to the light and you go, you get distance from the darkness. In the measure you distance from light, darkness will fill you. Concretely, in the measure you practice patience, you will be less and less impatient. In the measure you forget to practice patience, you will get impatient. Third point for the will. The education of the will is dominated by one great idea. It is what I explained to you with the goal. Finis hominis, the goal. And this is the motivation about which it was said in the beginning before. Life is a big, long walk to the top of the mountain. So, in this top of the mountain is the highest good, the eternal good, the happiness, a love without end. Therefore, already the young man who fell in love with a girl, he will write him, in my years, he wrote him a red letter with a beautiful heart and a flesh inside, and he will read, I love you forever and ever. And this is exactly what all the singers are singing, forever and ever, and so on. These words are in our mouths. They mean something. They mean that I want really to have a happiness forever and ever. True education will not show only the beauty of the secondary goals. You will learn, my friend, to become a personality, be a strong man, will influence other people. No. Responsible in the society. Your exercises will produce a beautiful family. Your education will bring you to become a master, to become maybe the president of the country, who knows? But also we have to go up to the top, the beauty of the last goal. If we have not that last goal in mind, the whole thing will lack the most important. Without this highest motivation, the question remains, for what all that? If after some years everything is finished, these young people ask, especially when they have trials and misunderstandings or deceptions. If I have loved something with all my heart and get a deception, what all these promises of the world will give me? I'm despaired. I finished. Why for that? So again, the importance of religious education, the promise that there is an everlasting happiness, which gives the deepest motivation for constant efforts and perseverance in the difficulties of life. And finally, concerning the education of will, It needs examples and patterns. Words inform, but the example excites men. Youth wants today again itself make dependent on its idols and stars. Look, that had happened in any time, but our times are very special for this, because our times are full of this I like, I don't like. So a one-day star, like a one-day mosquito is coming, and everybody's concentrated on this, I like, and they will clothe like this, will behave like this, they will speak like this, they will make their hair like this, and so on. Now, this is the dependence, of course. So many of these idols are corrupt. Therefore, the educator has to present a true ideal people to imitate. And this is really, I can tell you from my small experience of 25 years priesthood and missions all over the world amongst many, many young people, when you give them these examples of real patterns, of real heroes, I would say of real saints, of great people, you can see that light is coming in the eyes. A motivation is given to them, and this is it. But not only this, he can teach, the teacher and the parent, only effectively if he is giving himself the good examples and not only good examples of the others. You know, for passing the knowledge, he must be very competent and know the ways how to make the matters interesting of the youth. If young people sit in the class or hear the parents, I want to speak about virtue. Virtue is something very beautiful. They will just get asleep. You must be competent. You must think, how can I make interesting my matter for them that they will be excited? I have in our school one professor of philosophy. Philosophy is really not the matter to interest people. And we have the situation that because of the skill of presenting these very, very abstract things to their young people, that the whole class is absolutely excited on philosophy. Never seemed like in my life. When I was small, I was not interested in philosophy. Well, as for the will, he must give himself the examples of virtues, which he requests from them. If you require from your children and your former students punctuality, you must yourself be punctual. If not, nothing. The youth does not look to the educator only as a machine of knowledge to teach him. They observe his whole behavior, his way of speaking and acting and clothing, and his seriousness, not only in talking but in his life. This is how we remember our parents and our teachers. One word for the education of heart and soul. I finish now. Not only the youth is in a difficult situation. See the laments of the degenerated youth with all the subcultures, brutality, laziness, and the suicides, but also the problem of the educator. Nobody gives what he has not himself. You know, someone can acquire many knowledge, but it is difficult to acquire a way of life to become a true example for the truth. We are all weak. This brings us to a third and last point of education, which is yet more neglected today. It is spiritual of heart and soul, spiritual education. You know, man has not the possibilities in himself. No parent, no teacher to avoid evil, to stop corruption and self-destruction. And this we have to have in mind, and which what had been said very times today concerning the society, concerning justice, concerning even a concrete situation in defense and especially family. It is that we have not the means sufficient to educate the youth and to stand ourselves. Therefore, there must be a higher authority to help them, to guide them. And therefore, no educational system has never been established without reference to religion, which means reference to God's help and assistance. And wherever such a system had been tried without God to be established, it gave out only rotten fruits. We are all creatures created by God. Youth has a right, and the education has a duty to make enter God into their life. How? First, by proving his existence, which is even not the task of religion, but of sound reason. Go to Aristotle and Plato to learn this. Secondly, to live in that reality. However invisible, this unknown God is the first principle of all and the ultimate goal. As such, he has to be reverenced, which is the beginning of prayer, which has been pointed out today. Thirdly, in asking whether this unknown God has revealed himself in human history, which brings us to the personality of Jesus Christ. And fourthly, the historical proof that Jesus Christ is sent by God to give us the truth and light and happiness, to find him, to follow him, pray him, trust him, and this is the only guarantee of a true education of truth. Quo vadis Estonia? I would like to say, quo vadis Mariana? Estonia has a history, and the history of Estonia is a Christian history, and is linked to this great, great word and reality, Mariama. And I think, not to start another lecture, maybe another time, I think to reflect about the true Christian roots of Estonia will bring our youth back to find the true Christian values, and then to go on the way to build up a Christian Mariama. Thank you.